All right, Alan Olsen here with Justin and Cody Hyde, and today we're here to talk about the venture that Justin and Cody are engaged in called the Trout Ranch. Justin, I once heard that if you want to find a billionaire, you look for a stream and a fly rod. And
absolutely, I think that's really true, Alan. We have found that you know, it's a day and age that everything is so fast-paced and overwhelming in a lot of senses that it makes a lot of sense for successful people to go out and kind of go back to the basics and do some fly fishing, and there's plenty of water, so there's a lot of opportunity to go out and have a good time.
Now, you're from Star Valley, Wyoming, is that right?
Yeah, we are. We're from Star Valley, Wyoming, born and raised up there, and we've really enjoyed some of the opportunity that it's provided for us.
Now tell me about Star Valley. Is it a place where celebrities hang out, or do you got any good stories of people that you've seen over the years?
You know, we've met a lot of really unique and interesting people up in Star Valley. Star Valley lies about 45 or 50 minutes
south of Jackson Hole,
Wyoming, and we've met a lot of really unique personalities that we could go on and on with the list, but it's been very enjoyable meeting the type of people that do come up and enjoy the outdoors.
I heard Harrison Ford lives around there somewhere, doesn't he?
Yeah, Harrison lives there pretty close. He lives up in the Jackson Hole area.
Okay.
In fact, we bumped into Harrison 2 years ago up in Alaska on one of our fishing trips.
One of our fishing expeditions. So you always run into somebody out on the stream. You never know.
That's correct.
Never know who.
That's a lot of fun. Now, growing up, I heard that you guys raised buffalo.
Yeah, I grew up on a buffalo ranch there in Star Valley, and we've got a lot of interesting stories that go along with that.
What's it like raising a buffalo?
Cody?
Boy, that's a good question. It's kind of like the show bear. They look very domestic, but when it comes down to it, you never know who's going to be after who.
I heard you were once bait trying to get a buffalo to get out of a trailer. Can you tell us that story?
In fact, we tried to outsmart a buffalo one time there, Alan, and we had a buffalo that wouldn't unload out of the trailer as we were trying to introduce it into the herd, and we tried every manner which we thought possible to get that buffalo out, and we couldn't do it. So our dad came up with the idea that he ought to sit one of us in there as bait and see if the buffalo would come out and charge. And
sit us both in there, but as you can tell, I don't move very fast. so the straw was dealt to Cody.
It was. Mm-hmm. And
did it work?
It did, with a little help from older brother prodding the buffalo from the back end there. So it did charge me out of the trailer. We got out
pretty fast.
Came out fast.
In fact, we've got a photo of that encounter somewhere that we'll have to show sometimes.
Oh my
gosh!
gosh!
I'd like that.
So when you were raising buffalo, then those things will just go through fences, or when they go through a fence, how do you get the buffalo back into the field?
Yeah, there's definitely a science to that. When introducing buffalo to somewhere that they're unfamiliar, it's easiest to do it when they're young, so that they're trained to some of the, their surroundings. If they feel uncomfortable, we had a bull buffalo that we unloaded. I don't remember where we got him from, Montana or South Dakota or somewhere, but the moment that we unloaded him, he went through 7 fences and over a mile away from the ranch before we caught him. So, and then typically the best way.
How do you catch a buffalo?
Well, that's probably a story from another time. But really, the easiest way typically is to lure them with food or some other fields of the trade, I guess.
Food or Cody, one of the two.
There you go. There you go.
So now, later years, you grew up, and now that you have your families, I understand you're coming back now, and that you have a trout farm. Can you tell us about the farm and how this came about in your life?
Absolutely. As we've spent time traveling around the world and working the different businesses that we do, we decided that we'd like our children to be afforded the same opportunity that we were. and to be raised in the beautiful country in the area like Star Valley, Wyoming. So in the process, we decided to put together some events and bring some relationships that we had together where we were raised. And in doing so, we teamed up with an old friend that we grew up with in Star Valley, and partnered on a trout ranch that he had built over the last 25 years. And it's really turned into be something that's very unique, that attracts people from around the globe with all different monetary, statuses in society. It's been a lot of fun.
When I hear the word trout ranch, I often think of the annual roundup like you would cattle. How do you round those trout up and take them to market?
I think that's an open-ended question there, Alan. But I did want to mention one thing as you introduced this session is where to find a billionaire, and we find now that the tables have been turned, and there's a lot of people going back to the basics, as Justin mentioned, and that really hit home to us, that we were granted those opportunities growing up, being out on a stream without a cell phone ringing or the everyday rush, and
that we took for granted.
Absolutely. And so it's been really fun. That's really where the idea of the events were, is to take people back to our roots and be able to give them an experience that we cherish, but I guess we kind of took for granted growing up.
Absolutely.
So let me see if I understand this. On your trout ranch, you have no internet?
Correct.
No cell phone service?
That's
correct.
How about just telephone service?
Kind of like the Pony Express, but it works.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's great. So, unique attributes of the trout ranch. I heard that these fish there grow to be monstrous sizes. What's the biggest fish that you've ever seen pulled out of the trout ranch waters?
Ooh. Cody's going to have to answer that question, but David Kotok, a fund manager for